Kia ora koutou, welcome to Whiteboard Friday. This week we're fact-checking the Climate Change Minister Paula Bennett when she claims that the surplus credits we have are clean. So we're talking about the Paris Agreement here, how we're going to meet this target that we have to reduce our emissions by 2030. And one of the ways we're going to do that is by carrying forward past units from previous agreements. Is that a dodgy thing to do or not? Well, we'll explain it to you in more detail later on, but here's a story to summarise. So imagine your Uncle Trev gives you a $20 note. Now your Uncle Trev is a bit of a dodgy dude. He's mixed up in some odd things, but the $20 note, it looks kind of shonky, but you figure, what the hell, I'm going to go to the dairy and buy a Moro bar anyway. So you hand over the 20 bucks, you get $18 in change and a Moro bar. Now, by the time you get to the door, you've eaten the Moro bar, but as you exit the dairy, you discover that Uncle Trev's been arrested for printing money. Now, here's the dilemma. You've already eaten the Moro bar, you can't give that back. Do you go back in the dairy and you say, here's your 18 bucks back, sorry about that, sorry about handing over fraudulent money, or do you say, sweet, I've got 18 bucks and they're not fraudulent, I'm good as gold. That's effectively what the government is doing right now, and we'll show you the detail of why that is. So it all starts back in the first Kyoto period, which was 2008 to 2012. During that time, our emissions were 373 million tonnes of carbon, and our allowance was only 303 million tonnes of carbon. So again, we're emitting more than we're allowed to, so we have to make up that difference somehow. Luckily, we grew some trees. That was enough to cover the difference, but we still bought in 122 million units from foreign markets, 97 million of which were the dodgy ERUs that we talked about in our Climate Cheats report. That left us with a surplus of 124 million credits. Didn't we do well, New Zealand? We've met our international obligations. Now, when it came to the wash-up at the end of that time, we deliberately handed over the 97 million of dodgy foreign credits in order to meet those obligations. That left us, we made sure that that surplus that we were left with was these forestry credits, or the initial allowance that we were given. So they were good, clean credits. In fact, official documents show that the reason we handed over these 97 million ERUs were because of perceptions of environmental integrity. In other words, we know these are dodgy, get them off our books as soon as possible. So we're left with this surplus of 124 million credits, and it is good quality credits, but only because we've deliberately handed over these dodgy ones. How does that work going forward? Well, now we're in the period, the second Kyoto period, which is 2012 to 20. We have this surplus of 124 million credits that we are starting with. Our emissions are 656 million units. Again, they keep on rising. We're not doing anything about that. Our allowance is about 510 million units. Forestry, about 109 million units. Again, extra that we've grown through trees. And we've got this $124 million surplus. We haven't bought any foreign credits in this period because we're not allowed to. Because we've been dodgy in the past. And that leaves us with a surplus of 85 million credits, which we're looking like we might carry forward to the 2030 period. We only have this 85 million credits because of the 97 million dodgy as hell credits that we had in the first place. If we hadn't handed them over in the last period, we wouldn't have this surplus now. So claiming that these surplus credits are clean just because we got the dodgy ones off our books before is a bit like what happened with Uncle Trev at the dairy bar, at the dairy. You're left with the Moro bar, you've already eaten it. The question is, New Zealand, are we going to hand the 18 bucks back, or are we going to say, sweet as, this 18 bucks is genuine? That's the moral dilemma we face.